Well, welcome, beautiful people. I am super excited about this video because I get to just hang out with one of my good friends here, Kathrene Faith. We do not live anywhere near each other. We're probably like 800 miles away, but she lives in the great state of New Jersey and has a lot of friends in New York, a lot of things in that area. But I'm really just excited to have a conversation with her, and hopefully this is really encouraging for artists to see how someone goes from the ideas and just the dreams, the God-inspired ideas in your head to like a fully finished product and project. So Kathrene Faith, welcome. Love you. You're awesome. Excited to hang out with you.
Likewise.
You just released an album. Is it last Friday? Is this last week?
As of last week, yeah, Feast has been out in the world. Yeah.
Come on. Okay, so just right away, how are you feeling, my friend?
And always when this question is asked of me, I always like taper off because how do I like even put it all like together? But I think there's definitely excitement. I mean, that's the first emotion that comes to mind, but how I've been describing it is that it very much feels like walking on a tightrope, and it's exhilarating, and it's something that you can't really like about face and like go back and try to,
Yeah, it's
go
out
back
there.
to where you started. Yeah, that option's not on the table. You just kind of have to keep going, but that's filled with like, again, the exhilaration, but also like, there are some feelings of fear sometimes that come up, like, do I know what I'm doing? And, all of those things. But it's just a matter of like keeping one foot in front of the other, taking it a day at a time. So that's my approach to managing all of these feelings.
Is it a little bit like surreal that it's like, you always have all these moments where it's like kind of done, sort of done, but it's just there. You're not working on it anymore. Obviously, you're going into like a promotion season, but like, is it kind of surreal just having it done and songs are there and people are listening? And what is that like?
Absolutely surreal. Yeah, I can't believe that I get to speak here and talk about a body of work that's like, yeah, that's closed, it's done, the period is there. And that for me has been like just the greatest yeah, sense of accomplishment. But yeah, it feels surreal just because like historically it's always been easier to just start things and ideate and like
Yeah.
uh you know um kind of dabble, but then not like maybe fully execute on the idea for a number of reasons. But yeah, to be here and like be talking about like an album that I had just released is pretty wild.
Oh, I think this is something that a lot of artists struggle with is we're really good at the ideas and creating lots of things and starting ideas and telling someone like, oh, I'm working on a song, and it's a whole other beast to kind of not only like finish the song, but the recording process, the production process, mixing, releasing it to get it where it's like actually done. So man, we're here to just celebrate. I'm here to just celebrate, Kathrene, because you did it. Like, you crossed the finish line, and I wanna promote your music. I want people to hear this. What would you? I'm a guy who hates putting stylistic labels or genre labels, but like, what's the kind of overall sound? I guess we can kind of shoot back and forth here. It's kind of R&B ish. What would you say? Like,
It's really eclectic overall.
yeah, it's like
Uh,
it's got. I think we talked about like having an electronic flair with like an organic acoustic heart kind of thing, or
that's
what?
a great way to put into like the 3 to 4 words you just put in. Yeah, yeah. Because it definitely has a lot of like soul in
Mhm.
terms of like lyrics and concepts and things like that. But yeah, sound wise, yeah, it's very much vibrant. But then there are songs that are a lot more slow and like maybe geared towards more introspection, but yeah,
We need the hands. The hands
gotta
kind
do the
of, yeah,
hands,
the
you
hands
know.
say it all.
Can't talk about music without.
So so we originally started working together. I think it was late 2021. You took the Cultivated course. We started working kind of long term on your songs. But like the vision for Feast was something that you've had for a while. Tell me how the vision, like, how did it come to you? How did you hold on to it? And maybe like how did it change over the next 2 years till when you just released it? Or as like, what is Feast?
Yeah, I have always had a desire to one like put together a body of work, music and put it out in the way that I had. But the specific idea for Feast came about in like summer of 2020. I was coming out of a really um fast-paced season. I just came out of like a design boot camp and I just needed a month to just rest and recalibrate. And the first song, like, well, yeah, the first song that I had an idea about for the album, Keeper, kind of came forth in that season because I really needed to um uh relate to God in that way. But that time when I conceived of Keeper was also around the time when I started really solidifying this probably many years long concept that I've had before that around this idea that we are perennially growing beings and that we grow from strength to strength in the Lord. And that is actually about growing deeper and deeper roots in Him as opposed to necessarily like always like a trajectory going upward, which happens, which is what it is, but it's always like rooted in this
Yeah.
like, you know, this rootedness in the Lord that is actually runs deeper and deeper as you go higher and higher. So that was like the concept that I've always wanted to like create a body of work around. And um Keeper was kind of like the first song towards that theme. But as like the years progressed and I just like kept writing more songs for the album, um, and then ultimately writing the song Feast, I just I wanted to, I guess, speak less about like, oh, this is the process for growing from glory to glory, and actually trying to express in some way like a picture of God from scriptures that
Yeah.
would enable people to actually like feast on that and then in turn like grow those roots that are deeper and deeper and get nourished by that like vision. So it was like less about like trying to demonstrate by song like this is what glory to glory is, but more so trying to like yeah, create art that would facilitate that growth, that would like challenge and encourage like people walking with the Lord to press in deeper, to be drawn into the wonder of God and like just feast on it. And um
Well, I totally forgot that that transition happened. It started as perennials,
yeah,
and
yeah,
even as you're like, eventually we kind of moved in towards like, I remember you texting me like, I think this is actually called Feast. But I think you just summed it up well. Of instead of just showing the process or just um piecing together like this is how it works, it became more in my mind like a an offering. Like the album became more of like an offering or a gift rather than a teaching. And I think sometimes like Christian artists can create songs where we're trying to like explain or teach
yeah.
rather than like I want you to experience and taste, right? This is something for people to chew on and eat and digest. And it's like in this kind of gift offering thing. So I don't know if that sums it up, but I feel like it's definitely from your life like a Thanksgiving offering instead of a step by step like how to how to walk out a deeper faith or something like that. So
Yeah, precisely. And it comes from a place of just like all of these songs were written from just sitting down, trying to like behold God, like enjoying who he is, like, and just trying to, I don't know, like synthesize it somehow that only I can, but not even thinking about it in that way, just creating the art, just like giving of the offering, like you mentioned. And
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so this is something that's really common for artists to question or struggle, and I know there is a lot of um like curiosity yourself and exploration in like, how do I find my sound? How do I find my style? How do I create like my unique sound? And I know even before we started like the recording process, just you in general as a songwriter, where you're finding your own voice as an artist. And how did you go about like discovering your sound or deciding upon what kind of style you wanted? You could obviously make a lot of different styles. We live in a time where we can create a ton of different genres. But was it something like internally, like a knowing, like it needs to have these certain instruments, or it needs to have this certain vibe to it? Was it pretty ethereal and you kind of just decided I'm going to explore as we go along, or did you kind of know from the get go like what the sound of the thing you're trying to express was?
great question. I think
Hitting you with the hard hitters here.
I know. I don't think I can say a blanket statement for all the songs.
Mhm.
What I can say as a blanket statement is that I needed to enjoy the song. Like that was
Mm,
almost a measurement for me. Is like, am I enjoying this? Am I like
yeah.
thing again, like, am I like dancing to this? Because that's important for specifically that song because it's more upbeat. It's the first song, it's lively. It's like, am I dancing to this? Am I vibing to it right now? Do I see myself like playing this at like 3 p.m. on a Wednesday and being like enlivened to continue in my workday? So I think those are more of the questions I was asking myself as we were like you know finishing up the songs. Um and for others I was also just more exploratory. Like for Keeper, I think I really liked this one song by this indie Filipino artist that had more of like an 80s vibe. I was like, hold up, I didn't consider Keeper to have this kind of like feel. Like I've always,
You awoke something in me when you said 80s, and you said, Kyle, I think this is the vibe. I just went crazy in production.
and I'm so glad you did because
Uh,
honestly, I love it so much and so many people do. But I never imagined, like I always when I finished writing Keeper, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a piano song, like very much a ballad, because it's this,
Yeah,
duet with the Lord. It's gonna be sweet. But yeah, that surprised me, but I love that it did, and I didn't like feel beholden to what I thought it would be at the beginning. So, yeah, yeah.
I love that. Okay, so just on the practical side, you work full time. If I'm not mistaken, you're kind of like UX designer, like user interface designer, right? So you work full time. You're like probably, I'm assuming, like a desk job. You're in a workplace, work environment. How do you pull off doing something that takes like a ton of time, effort, money? Like this is a big project to get something written, recorded, released. How did you just manage? Because most artists I'm working with they've got day jobs, they've got kids, they've got lives, and then they feel like this calling. Like I'm also supposed to be making music and I'm supposed to be creative. How did you pull that off, Kathrene?
I do not know.
What's your secret sauce? Do you have like, is there some food you eat at midnight to keep you going, or what?
Man, I wish I could say it's, hey, this bottle of sauce that if you buy today for
For only
29.99.
$9.99.
I really wish I could lay out the exact steps that I took every single day to see this thing through, but I honestly believe it was the grace of God for this season. And I know that doesn't sound practical, but I literally took this process day by day. I wasn't like pedal to the metal
yeah.
um every single day. And they're on top of like doing a full-time job. I'll also like anyone else that's human, you know, you like suffer loss or you just have to deal with heartbreak and things that happen when you're in relationship and in community with people. Um, and and so I honestly, because as I look back, seeing that like all those things have happened at the same time, I'm not like kidding when I say it's like the grace of the Lord in the season and also his grace like just propelling me. And I I actually thought at the very beginning of like starting this work on the album that it would feel like work. Like I'm going to be logging off at 5 p.m. Thankfully, I like remote workly and at home. And so it's a matter of just like changing from like my work desk over here to this place right here. um, but I thought that it was going to be like, all right, like strap up the boots and let's
Sure.
Like Slugfest.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was. I'm not gonna like say that it wasn't because it was, but oftentimes I actually found the work itself to be the oasis
Huh.
uh in the times when like my day job or like things that I was dealing with in my uh yeah, other things I was dealing with, like the music itself became like the oasis, like the songs themselves became the way that God was like ministering to me during this past year. It's crazy. And I think that is why, and that is how I have like been able to manage going forward because I didn't like the work itself on working on the music was yeah, also a resting place for me. And the Lord was really gracious in marking the time after work when I would be like listening to the latest iteration you gave me or like
Yeah.
like warming up my voice to like sing like a bridge. Like all of those moments were like now that I look back at it, like yeah, times of rest. This is really
I
weird to
love
say.
it.
I
No,
know,
I
Yeah.
but
love
like it
that.
really feel that's how it really feels like.
That's exactly what you want in your songs where they're requiring a lot of you. They're demanding a lot from your life, but they're actually also like rejuvenating you and making you feel alive at the same time. I think that's exactly where you want to be as an artist. Because if you're constantly just slug fest, like just working, and you'll get burnt out. But if you find in the process that like what you're making lights you up and it gives you like new energy, then that's probably exactly why you're able to see it to the finish line. So I love that.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part? So like for some people it can be focus, for some people it can be making decisions, for some people it's the time that it takes or the energy that it takes or uh wondering if so and so is going to like it. Like what in the process for you, even working with me, like anyone who's working with a producer, right? You obviously have to have a level of trust and kind of surrender as well, since like you're not creating everything. I'm just curious for you, what seemed to be the hardest dynamic, the hardest part of this?
I think it was believing that I could measure up to what the songs are demanding of me. Like I think all of this has been new for me. So from working with you obviously on the productions but also like recording the vocals, deciding when it makes sense to do harmony where
Yeah.
like I think believing that I could like execute on what I can like envision for the song.
Okay, so there's this battle going on inside of like, can I pull it off? Am I good enough? Will this work?
Yeah, and it was in those moments that I really had to go back to the things that you taught me about um just about like mindset wise that I had to like really hold on to and just like remain dedicated to serving the song and also like giving grace to myself. But also like going for it, like, and not feeling limited by um yeah, whatever doubt I was feeling in the moment, like, do I?
Okay, well let's get into that a little bit, because this is the thing that artists don't always love talking about. But yeah, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the inadequacies. Uh, I've known you for what, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, and everyone goes through different waves of feeling inadequate. Am I worth it? Am I good enough? What were the biggest like fears that showed up, or doubts along the way? Because that's usually where artists stop. We give up. We have the failed projects. We have the half-finished recordings, or we have the talk, but then there's not the finished work. What were the main things running through your head that you actually had to like battle and fight and wrestle with?
Yeah, I could think of two things. One was like, yeah, how do I vocally and melodically like just paint what this song is supposed to be? Um, and
Hmm.
yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one because
Okay.
I found myself feeling frustrated with um a lot of vocal takes and um
We've been there.
which have led to just like, questioning whether, man, like, if I can count the amount of times I was like, should I be doing this?
Hmm.
Like, um, and
Sure.
then, yeah, the other one is like, man, will people get this? Like, will people understand? And
Hmm.
I've really had to let go of that, of wanting to even like tame things down for the sake of like
Yeah.
being more palatable or maybe more like appealing. But I knew like the artistic direction I wanted to go, and I didn't want to tame it down for that just for that. But I think for me, it was also wrestling with like and accepting the fact that there will be like misunderstandings of my work that
Yeah. I
control.
How you say that, I think, is so crucial. Like that, I think you hit the nail on the head on, and this is like everything that we've talked about throughout the years of mainstream commercial Christian music, how palatable things should be versus raw or mysterious, right? And I think what you're saying, Kathrene, is what it means to enter into being like Christ. Like the whole incarnation was one big, from an artistic perspective, an artistic risk of, will they even understand me?
Yeesh.
And there's a huge opening if you enter into the realm of Christ from an artist, where he had to swallow that pill of like, I am not going to be understood. I am going to be rejected. I am going to be misquoted and misexplained and misspoken about, and I have to be comfortable with that. Like you see in Christ's life that he doesn't have this need to try to get everyone to see him clearly. He actually just like lays the cards on the table, and even some of his closest friends don't understand that. And I think we've, as like 21st century artists, I think we've taken too much of that commercial packaged product for a consumer mentality, where we're not just making art, we're making something that people can, like a consuming product, right, that people can use. And if the customer doesn't get it or appreciate it or like it, they're not going to buy it again. And I think that mentality maybe has gone too far into our mindset as artists, where it's like, I'm not responsible for people getting it.
Mm. Mhm.
Now, on the flip, I'm going on a little rant here, but on the flip side, sometimes people use that to justify poor art. Like, oh, they don't need to get it. I'm just expressing, and they might be expressing in a really crappy way. And then they write it off like, oh, they're not, people aren't supposed to get it, right? Like this kind of like, it's mysterious. So I think you can't use that as an excuse, but I think it's just an openness and awareness that like, I'm trying to create something that maybe doesn't even make sense in my own life. I'm kind of speaking for you here. I'm trying to bring forth an expression of my faith that I'm not even sure how it's supposed to sound. And I have to be okay with the fact that like this might go over some people's heads, or this might cross paths in the wrong way, and some of my closest friends might not even really get it. They might not understand. Is that safe to say how I
Yeah.
put it? Okay.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And so I think even, yeah, those are my thoughts like going through my head in the process. And even like right now, as I'm like,
Yeah.
promoting the thing and yeah, yeah. And that's, I think, the the main challenge that I think day by day I have to like continually remind myself, essentially what you just said.
So with like right along with that, you've only had the Feast, the album out for a week. What's been the response so far? Like, have you had a mixture of like probably some really positive like Catherine, yeah moments, and then maybe some expectations of people that you thought would be listening or like it? Like, what's been the response that you've been up against so far?
Yeah, I mean, overall, like mostly from friends and family, super excited.
Yeah,
And that like I
like we didn't know that this part of you existed. We get to
now there's a 10-song album, say what? I'm like, I know, I can't believe it either. I have not received, and I this is the thing, I don't know if it's just because it's a 1 week out, so it's still relatively new, but um yeah, I don't think I've received anything yet that's like, I don't get it. Like, what you do? Like someone outrightly saying that to me.
right,
If
right,
anything, I think what has been maybe more challenging is not getting maybe more mm, like specific feedback from people that I may have felt like, oh, it's been a week and we're pretty
yeah,
close. Haven't really
yeah.
gotten any thoughts from you as to like how what you think of the music. And I'm not like actively going around to everyone I know, like, hey, what are your thoughts? Hey, what are your thoughts? Hey, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm sharing it out and the word is being spread, but I think that to me is the struggle more so right now, if I'm being honest. But again, I don't know if that's just because like it's only been a week and no one's lives revolve around my album. Like,
That's the hard thing is like from your perspective how much time and energy and late nights and finances and listening to mix number 17, like the whole process. So when you release that, you have this whole history and like you've literally given yourself to it. And on the other side, I think this is what maybe non-artists don't understand, and even what artists don't understand when they're promoting is like the other person on the other side isn't thinking about any of that. And they have all their stuff going on in their life, and they're not like their lives aren't revolving around like when's the release date. Oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this every night. They've got kids crawling on their back, and they've got work assignments due, and they've got hospital visits, and there's life that's happening. And so sometimes it's hard for artists because it's like, I've been pouring myself into this. And they're like, what? You released something, right? And there's that tension there. So I don't know, just to encourage you, whether they accessed it in a year or 2 years or 5 years, it's cool that it can kind of live out there on its own and maybe hit them when it's the right time to hit them. So I don't know, just encouraging you with that. But
that's a really encouraging reminder. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I think I'm excited for you just in getting to know you and knowing your story. Um, And knowing that 2 or 3 years ago, you were kind of a little bit at a crossroads as an artist in general, just like, okay, late 20s, do I have anything to show? Am I really going to take this seriously? And you kind of had to make some huge decisions to like even step into your artistry and your writing, and then even like starting to create for this album. But I think what I've been excited for is there's probably a lot of people in your life, Kathrene, that know you well, but don't know this whole side of you that hasn't been like expressed or shown before. And so I'm excited for the people around you because I know how cool you are. And I know also like your heart for the Lord. And it's one thing to like talk about your faith or tell people about your relationship with God. It's another thing for like people to hear your intimate expressions of devotion or love or reverence and in worship. And that can actually change some relationships, because they think they might know you and they maybe work with you every day or see you every week. But yeah, I'm just excited that people will maybe get to see this whole other side of you. And I don't even want to say it's like another side of you. It's actually like the core of you, like the real you that shows up way underneath like social settings or church settings, work settings, family dinners. Like it's a whole deeper thing that is really like your core, that may be showing for the first time. I don't know if that's accurate, but
I feel like this journal right here is now like being made available for everyone to read. It definitely feels that way. Especially with, if I can name some songs like Here's to the Ones. That one's really vulnerable. Even True. And yeah, I think getting to, that picture of like the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is what you kind of see just like up, but really that there's so much to the iceberg underneath. I feel like I'm inviting people to do like that deep dive of like, hey, this is, especially people who maybe only know me as like, oh, that's the girl who plays a piano on Sundays leading, that Bethel song, or my coworker who only knows me as, the UX designer on the team. It's like, oh, this is the kind of music you're putting out. And yeah, having to put myself out there and just being ashamed about it, has been daunting, but also the most freeing thing.
hmm. Yeah, I would sum it up like you're becoming who you're supposed to become. You're in the process of becoming, and then you're likewise like sharing that with people, which again is like the incarnation. It's inviting people into a dynamic life, and it's not just platitudes and it's not just talk. It's welcoming people into like the depths of who you are and what God's done in your life, which is I think what we find all throughout. I mean, especially like the Psalms, right? Like David's inviting us into his innermost struggles and thoughts and questions and delights. And yet we're not just taking that as him. Like we're taking those songs upon ourselves, and it's like us. It's an us thing. So I hope maybe even with your songs, yes, we're being invited into your life, but hopefully it just becomes like an us, like, oh, this is how I feel, or this is what I've experienced, or yeah, she's saying something in a way that finally makes sense for how I've always thought about it, but I've never been able to put that sentence on it. I've never been able to say that phrase the way she says it.
Right. Or I've never experienced this thing yet that has now like caused me to like relate to a song in a certain way. So yeah, I think that's the really exciting part for sure. And also kind of um yeah, pushing against this notion that Christian music sounds and tackles topics in the same way. So even yeah, devotional music in the way that I'm trying to do it. I don't know. I'm yeah, I just want it to be unexpected for people, especially people who don't, again, who have like a preconceived notion of who a Christian is and how their relationship with God is like, or um, you know, I don't know, they're like corny goody two shoes people, whatever. I'm just, and I'm thinking more so about people who don't know God or like, have had um maybe experiences with the church and with God that have been harmful. I'm um yeah, also endeavoring to like kind of like, yeah, express this picture of God that shatters those like uh walls, or does away with those like preconceived notions. And
Sure. Well, I definitely can vouch. I would say, like, as someone who's not only worked on the songs with you, like in the writing process, tweaking lines, tweaking melodies, like that whole process, but then also like recording it and producing the music, like there definitely is an authenticity to it. It's not, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like Kathrene has an agenda here. She's trying to pull one on some of us. It feels like you're starting to discover who you are and what that actually sounds like in an art form. And it does feel authentic. I think just your, I think when you said the word devotion, I think that sums it up well. It is very devotional in its nature. There's like a reverence and a thankfulness. There's a lot of joy kind of bubbling forth. But it feels authentically like, oh, if I listen to this, God's definitely done something to this woman. Like he's definitely moved in her life, because it doesn't feel like she's just trying to like write songs for a congregation or like write Christian platitudes. It really sounds like, no, this is her story, right? Like this is literally what's happening in her life. And so I will vouch for it. You should definitely listen to this album and be encouraged. Is it on all platforms? Spotify, Apple Music, everything, YouTube? Okay. So I will definitely put the links below. Check it out. Put it on repeat. Pump it up in your car on the when you're blasting on down the highway, because there's some jams in there. There's some good ones. Any final like just encouragement for other artists, people on the journey? Maybe they're afraid to start. Maybe they're like, I can't even finish a freaking song, or maybe they're stuck in like, where you were maybe a couple years ago, which was like, I'm writing the 4-chord kind of Hillsongy thing. Like maybe they don't know their style, or they haven't found their voice. Maybe they have a vision, a dream, like they know they're supposed to make this kind of album with these sounds, but they haven't crossed the finish line. Anything that you can just say to encourage people to make their music?
Yeah. Yeah, do it. Like, just go forward without limits, because God is within you. And I have really I don't know why this is the word I thought of, but globbed onto this verse in this season in Second Corinthians that says, now we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. And I wholeheartedly believe that just saying yes and being willing to, with the Lord, like overcome the fears, with amazing mentors like Kyle, like, and the Holy Spirit to renew the mindset that's necessary to like steward the dreams in your heart. Like all of that is possible. And it's, I feel like for me, the fears become less daunting and almost like null when you think about just like the beauty of getting to do this with God, that it's all his grace that we get to. And even when there is a mistake, whenever it does become 77 takes of vocal recordings, like even in all of that, like it's all grace, and it's all um a beautiful like invitation to just create and play with God, and what comes of it is going to be beautiful because it's authentic to you. And yeah, there's no there's no fear or measuring stick that should keep you back from like just moving forward with what you know is within you to share with the world. And it really is worth it to like go through the process to see what those songs can be. And then just find a new found joy even in
Mhm.
that. You know, in seeing this song through, I would not have believed that this is how it would have come out.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a special joy that comes with saying yes, believing that you're in partnership with God to do this, and then knowing that He's like fully equipped you, but that also like the surpassing power belongs to Him. So you're Gucci, you're good. Like there's grace in every step of the process. So
I love that. I mean, I want to encourage you, Kathrene, because I think I told you a long time ago, like I want to discover Christ through your work, right? And so I think you've done that. You've you've been faithful to your gift and your calling, and you've actually put the work in and the time and the effort to take it seriously, and then that results in me getting to experience God through you and through your life. And the coolest thing is, I know we're celebrating, like, you know, this is something we talked about from way back in the day, like the perennial EP to the becoming Feast, but we're celebrating, yeah, that you've gotten released, but this is like just the start. Like, this is just the beginning of you spending a lifetime chasing after parts of your faith and parts of your life and parts of the kingdom of God that maybe you don't even know how to express right now in music or in words or in lyrics. And so I as much as I want to like celebrate you and be like, yes, this is awesome, I also want to be like, keep going, because what we're going to hear from you 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road really lights me up and excites me. So let this not be the end where you're like, okay, I finally achieved something, and then you just go into the next 15 years of floating. But I hope it's just the start of, man, I want to just dig into God more. I want to dig into music and chords and songwriting and styles and lyrics and all that stuff. But yeah, I just want to honor you. Well done. You should definitely be proud. It's okay to be super proud and feel accomplished for what you did, and I definitely want to honor you for that. And you absolutely did it. You did it, my friend. So
yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel the complete opposite of, oh, one and done, cool.
yeah,
I'm going like, if like to tack onto what I just like said, like to continue what I had just said in my latest answer, like I think that to me is like the best gift is like I'm looking forward to next year when I'm gonna be writing the new thing. Like I honestly can't wait until like the promotion aspect and all of that stuff is over. I'm like really, I'm really looking forward to like just tackling the new thing next
love
year.
it.
So yeah.
Well, I'll do a little promotion here for those watching this and listening. You definitely have to check this out. I will say, especially for those listeners that like really take words seriously, this is like poetry. Like, Kathrene is super gifted with her words, and some of the phrases and some of the expressions throughout this album, like some of the songs, if you hear how she says stuff or how she puts words together, it's like I've been blown away many times. Like, man, how does she do that? Like, how did she think of it like that, or how did she come up with that sentence? There's just some really, I'll say it's rich, it's deep, it's meaningful, it's not fluff, it's not just put together quick 2-hour writing session Nashville, like let's write a hit song kind of thing. Like it's coming from a deep place in her, and she's honed it and worked on it and perfected it. And so I definitely would want to encourage any of you guys to like dive in and literally do what the album is called, Feast. She's intending this to be something that you eat, you partake in, you chew on it, You don't just quickly consume it, but like you feast on it and you let it change you and shape you. And I think it has the weight for you to be able to do that. Like you can come to the songs again and again and feast on them and be satisfied. So like listen to it, take time to, I guess, just let it like seep into your system. And yeah, super proud of you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. And to all you watching, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking this out. Blessings to you.